You're a medieval princess, draped in velvet, but you haven't bathed in a year, and your castle stinks of waste and lice. Your fairy tale life is a gritty, smelly nightmare. Palaces are dark, vermin-ridden, and filth lurks everywhere. What's it like to be royalty when hygiene is a luxury? Stick around to uncover why being a medieval princess was far from glamorous. Would you swap your modern shower for a crown? Think medieval people were just cool with being filthy? Nope, you'd be wrong. They actually cared about staying clean, but their idea of hygiene was wildly different from your daily shower routine. Full baths were seen as risky because many believed soaking in water opened your pores to diseases. Instead, you'd splash cold water on your hands, face, and maybe your feet from a basin. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Etiquette was a big deal, especially at meals. Since you ate with your fingers, forks weren't a thing yet, washing your hands before digging in was non-negotiable. But here's a jaw-dropper. Some nobles, like Queen Isabella of Castile, reportedly only bathed twice in their entire lives, once at birth and once before their wedding. Meanwhile, King John of England was basically a hygiene superstar, taking 10 baths in 6 months, which was about once a month. For most, though, bathing was a rare treat reserved for special occasions like weddings or coronations. Public bathhouses were the medieval version of a social club where men and women scrubbed down together. Sounds fun, right? But by the late Middle Ages, these spots got shut down over fears of disease and, well, too much partying. So, you were stuck bathing at home if you even bothered. To mask the smell of an unwashed body, you'd slather on rose or lavender oils, though sometimes it just smelled like a floral trash heap. And religious folks? Some thought frequent bathing was vain or sinful, so you might skip it to look extra holy. Now, let's talk beauty routines. You'd cake on Venetian ceruse, a lead-based makeup, to get that pale, princess glow, never washing it off, which was a slow ticket to lead poisoning. Your linen undies got swapped out regularly, but that heavy velvet gown? It stayed on for days, maybe weeks, just brushed or aired out. Your wimple, that fancy head covering, trapped oil and dirt, turning your scalp into an itchy mess. And childbirth? Poor hygiene meant midwives might use unwashed hands, making it a dangerous time for you and your baby. Medicine wasn't much help either. Doctors loved sketchy treatments like bleeding or leeches, with zero clue about germs. Your daily routine stuck to washing hands and face, maybe feet if you were feeling fancy, but full baths? Those happened maybe once a year or for big events. It was a world where hygiene was more about looking proper than actually being clean. Crazy, right? As a medieval princess, your bathing routine is no spa retreat. Once a year, you climb into a wooden tub for a quick dunk, and it's about as glamorous as it sounds. That bathwater? It might have already been used by servants or even the court jester before you get your turn. Warming up enough water took piles of firewood, so frequent baths were a major hassle. For most, bathing was a rare event, saved for big moments like a wedding or coronation. Some royals were a bit more bath-happy, though. Take King John of England, a hygiene legend who took 10 baths in 6 months, about once a month. Or Edward III, who had a fancy bath chamber at Westminster with hot and cold running water-pure luxury for the time. Meanwhile, Juana of Castile loved her baths and washed her hair often, but her husband fretted it might make her sick. Then there's Queen Isabella, who bragged about bathing only twice in her life. At birth and on her wedding day, more a pious flex than a standard. Public bathhouses were once all the rage, like medieval community pools where everyone scrubbed down together. But by the late Middle Ages, they got shut down over fears of disease and too much naughty behaviour. At home, wealthy folks like you might have portable tubs or even a dedicated bath area in the castle. Royals often had servants, like King John's bathman, to handle the whole process. Still, many avoided baths because of the humour theory, which claimed soaking opened your pores to diseases. Bathing habits varied across Europe. Germans were notorious for skipping baths, while some English royals splashed around more often. Summer was prime bathing time since the water was warmer and easier to get. If you were travelling, you might lug a tub along, just in case. Even monks face strict rules, limited to 2 or 3 baths a year, which gives you a hint about royal schedules. So, yeah, your annual dip was more about status than actually getting clean. Your morning as a medieval princess starts with a splash of cold water from a basin hitting your face and hands. If you're feeling extra fancy, you might give your feet a quick scrub, but that's not a daily thing. Hand washing is a must, especially before and after meals. Using soap made from animal fat and ashyep, it's as gross as it sounds. Face washing is standard, just a chilly cloth to wipe away the night's grime. This is your version of freshening up, but it's barely scratching the surface of clean. Teeth cleaning? No toothbrush for you. You rub your teeth with a twig or cloth, then rinse with mint or sage water to keep things fresh. For that garlic-heavy feast breath, you swish herbal concoctions like Cloves Medieval mouthwash to the rescue. Hair washing happens every few weeks, using soap or alkaline mixes to cut through the grease. Daily combing is your real battle, untangling knots and fighting off lice, then styling with ribbons or jewels to look royal. Beauty comes at a cost. You slather on Venetian ceruse, a lead-based makeup, every day for that pale princess glow, but it's toxic and stays on your skin. To mask any body odor, you douse yourself in floral or musky oils, hoping to smell more like a garden than a stable. Your linen undies get swapped out often, thank goodness. But your heavy gowns? They're just brushed or aired, worn for days or weeks. Clean, trimmed nails are a must. Dirty ones are a total etiquette fail. Even the little things matter. You're taught never to pick your nose or ears with bare finger Susa cloth, because manners. Shaving isn't your concern, but the men around you might shave weekly or not at all, unless they're monks scraping their faces daily. Your whole hygiene routine is about looking proper, not feeling squeaky clean. It's a lot of effort for what we'd call barely passable today. Who knew being a princess meant mastering the art of almost clean? Your royal palace sounds dreamy, but it's a hygiene horror show. Picture hundreds of people, courtiers, servants, and even animals crammed into your castle, turning it into a chaotic mess. Toilets, called garderobes, are just holes in the wall, dumping waste into a pit or moat below, and the smell could knock you out. Dogs, cats, and livestock wander freely, leaving droppings wherever they please. Rats, mice, lice, and fleas are your uninvited roommates, scurrying through your bedchamber like they own the place. Keeping things clean is a losing battle. Servants scrub what they can, but with limited tools, your castle stays grimy. Waste from garderobes and kitchens piles up, creating health hazards and a stench that clings to everything. Royals like Henry VIII had to bounce between 60 residences just to escape the build-up of filth. Water comes from wells or cisterns, sometimes through lead or wooden pipes, but it's not enough to keep things sanitary. Your home is less royal palace and more medieval landfill. The environment doesn't help either. Fires for warmth fill your rooms with smoke, stinging your eyes and blackening walls with soot. Cold stone walls and tiny windows turn your castle into an icebox, especially in winter. Ventilation is a joke, so the air stays stale and suffocating, thick with smoke and odors. Even your fancy tapestries, meant to keep you warm, are dust magnets, trapping smoke and grime. Your floors, covered with rushes or herbs, soak up spills but breed dirt and vermin, making every step a crunchy gamble. Nights are no better. Candles and oil lamps are pricey, so you're stuck in near darkness, stumbling around your own home. Your furniture, chairs, tables, you name it, could be crawling with bugs, ready to hitch a ride on your gown. It's no wonder you're always on the move to a new residence, trying to outrun the filth. Living in a royal palace sounds grand, but it's a drafty, smoky, bug-infested nightmare. Who knew royalty had to deal with such a stinky, creepy castle? Your royal feasts sound like a foodie's dream, but they come with some nasty surprises. You're chowing down on roasted peacock, swan, lamprey pies, and fancy treats like dates or almonds. Honey and sugar drench every dish, turning your meals into a tooth-rotting sugar fest. The kitchens, though, there are disaster cooks in filthy clothes, or sometimes naked, until Henry VIII put a stop to that nonsense. Leftovers pile up, rotting and adding to the palace's already epic stench. Health-wise, your diet is a medieval train wreck. Heavy on meat, sugar, and booze, it's a fast track to gout or packing on the pounds. You've got manners, though washing your hands before digging in with your fingers, since forks haven't been invented yet. But the tablecloths? They're stained, rarely changed, and basically a canvas of past feasts. Sharing goblets with everyone at the table spreads germs faster than a castle rumour. It's all fancy, but the hygiene is seriously lacking. Those big banquets happen often, but your daily meals are simpler, thank goodness. Still, spices are dumped on everything to mask the taste of slightly spoiled meat. Yep, that's a thing. A lot of your food, especially meat, comes out undercooked, so foodborne illnesses are always lurking. To top it off, dogs roam around the table, snatching scraps and adding to the chaos with their barking and mess. For the servants, cleaning up the post-feast disaster is the worst job in the castle. Imagine scraping rotting food and spilled wine off the floor. As a medieval princess, your bed is no cozy haven. You're sharing it with servants, family, and a lively crew of fleas that throw nightly parties on your skin. The castle's drafty walls and tiny windows turn your room into a freezer, even with fires crackling. Those fireplaces? They choke the air with smoke, stinging your eyes and making every breath feel like a campfire adventure. Your bedsheets, soaked with sweat and grime, are rarely changed, so you're basically sleeping in a medieval laundry pile. Nights are dark and dicey. Candles are crazy expensive, so you're stumbling around in near blackness after sunset, hoping not to trip over a stray dog. Your mattress, stuffed with straw or feathers, is a bug magnet, crawling with pests that make you itch like mad. The heavy bed curtains keep you warm but trap smoke and funky odors, turning your bed into a smelly cocoon. Even for a princess, this setup is far from the plush, comfy beds of today. Sleep is hard to come by. Barking dogs, chattering servants, and howling wind keep you tossing and turning. Privacy? Forget iron-locked doors mean anyone from a nosy courtier to a random guard could barge in. You wake up cold, groggy, and scratching bug bites, feeling more like a grumpy camper than royalty. To escape the filth piling up in the castle, you're constantly packing up and moving to another residence, dragging your whole court along. Who knew a princess's rest could be such a rough ride? Your wardrobe as a medieval princess is stunning, but it's not exactly fresh. Those silky gowns you rock? They're aired out or brushed, never washed, to avoid ruining the fabric. Your wimple, that chic head covering, traps oil and dirt, leaving your scalp itching like a flea convention. Makeup is another nightmare. You slather on lead-based cosmetics for that pale royal glow, but they're slowly poisoning you. It's a high price for beauty, and you're stuck scratching and shining in toxic style. Healthcare is a gamble. Childbirth is terrifying, with unhygienic conditions and midwives' unwashed hands putting you and your baby at risk. Feeling sick? Your doctor's go-to is bloodletting or leeches, clueless about germs and more likely to make things worse. The church doesn't help. preaching that frequent bathing is vain or sinful, so you might skip it to look devout. Plagues like the Black Death make things trickier, convincing some that baths invite disease. It's a world where even staying clean feels like a health risk. Where you live matters too. English royals tend to bathe more than Germans, who are notorious for dodging the tub. Your high status gets you better facilities, like private tubs, but doesn't guarantee cleaner habitsome nobles are just as grimy. Modern folks might think medieval life was all filth, all the time, but that's a bit exaggerated. Still, between the dirty castles and dodgy medicine, your daily life is rougher than any fairy tale. Who knew being a princess came with so many gross surprises? Let's wrap this up. Being a medieval princess gave you wealth and status, but it came with annual baths, beds crawling with fleas, and palaces that reeked of waste. Forget fairy tales, this was a hygiene horror show where even royalty couldn't dodge the grime. Would you trade your hot showers and clean sheets for a crown and a filthy castle? Yeah, didn't think so. Next time you fantasize about princess life, give a quick thank you for soap and running water,